80,000 French fans went completely uncomfortably silent.
Yeah, you could hear a pin drop.
Right. I mean, we are talking about the Stade Pierre-Mauroy in Lille, the #1 team in Europe, playing on home soil, and they're expecting, an absolute exhibition match.
Basically a victory lap.
Exactly, a victory lap. And yet, it took exactly 11 minutes for a team of Scottish underdogs who were operating this hyper-disciplined low block to just make the French giants look entirely ordinary.
It really was wild to watch.
It was. And for you listening right now, just so you know, this deep dive is not your standard match summary where we just, read you the scoreboard.
Right, we're not just giving you the highlights.
No, we're looking at the actual mechanics of tactical friction, the cognitive load of defending world-class players, and how an entire tactical paradigm can just, shatter and rebuild itself before the halftime whistle even blows.
It really is a fascinating case study in structural discipline versus what you might call offensive gravity.
Offensive gravity, I like that.
Yeah, because for those first 11 minutes, you're watching a Scottish side that completely neutralized one of the most potent attacking forces in world football.
Which is no small feat.
Not at all. And they didn't do it with, raw athleticism or individual brilliance. They did it with pure mathematical spatial control.
Right, and we really have to start exactly there, because before we talk about how this match ended up as a 4-1 French demolition, we need to look at how France got punched in the mouth.
Oh, totally.
So Scotland comes out in this incredibly compact back five. They aren't trying to outpossess France at all. They are setting a trap.
A very deliberate trap.
Yeah, and at the 11-minute mark, Eduardo Camavinga, who, by the way, is a player who is virtually press-resistant, right? A guy whose composure is his defining trait.
Oh, absolutely. He's usually a rock.
Right. He makes a catastrophic, unforced error in midfield. McLean pounces, feeds Billy Gilmour, and Gilmour just buries his first-ever senior goal for Scotland.
What a moment for him.
Incredible moment. 1-0. The away end completely loses its mind.
Yeah.
But here is my question for you, because Camavinga doesn't just, forget how to pass a football.
No, of course not.
So what is the actual structural mechanism that forces a world-class midfielder into a cheap mistake like that?
Well, think of Scotland's defensive setup in those opening minutes like a Chinese finger trap.
Oh, okay.
The harder France tried to push the ball directly through the central channels, the tighter the Scottish midfield and defensive lines gripped together.
Right.
So by operating a back five with a flat midfield four sitting right on top of them, Scotland essentially erased the half spaces that players like Griezmann and Mbappe usually just feast on.
So they're deliberately denying them the most valuable real estate on the pitch.
Exactly, and that creates a very specific type of psychological friction.
Interesting.
Yeah, because when you're a team like France and you're accustomed to having, 70% possession and just passing through teams at will, the sudden absence of those passing lanes creates this subtle impatience.
Like they're getting frustrated.
Right, so Camavinga gets the ball. He looks up. The lane to the winger is blocked. The lane to the striker is choked by 3 center backs.
Wow.
So he holds the ball for a half second longer than he normally would in his club environment. And that micro-hesitation is all it takes.
It's all they need.
Exactly. Scotland's structure didn't just, passively wait for an error. The sheer density of their formation actively manufactured it.
It's forced claustrophobia.
That's a great way to put it.
And Gilmour, a player who has battled so hard for consistent minutes at the highest level, he's perfectly positioned to snap that trap shut.
Yeah, it's a massive milestone for him.
To get his first international goal in that specific environment, it's huge. So Scotland is living the absolute dream. They have cracked the code.
They really thought they had.
But this is where the reality of playing a top-tier international side just hits you like a truck.
Yeah.
France doesn't start pointing fingers. They don't abandon their shape.
No, not at all.
They just cold-bloodedly alter the geometry of their attack.
Which is the true hallmark of an elite squad, right? A lesser team panics when that Chinese finger trap tightens.
They start forcing it.
Yeah, but France just figured out they needed to attack it from a completely different angle.
And the speed of that realization is, frankly, terrifying. 5 minutes later, just 5 minutes after Gilmour's goal, France wins a corner on the right.
And this is where it turns.
It gets whipped in with serious viciousness. Colomwani is at the near post, but the ball bypasses him, and it's Benjamin Pavard who heads it in off the upright.
A great finish.
And if that isn't enough to give you whiplash, 8 minutes after that, Konate plays the ball out to Mbappe. Mbappe isolates Hendry out wide, beats him, crosses it in, and there's Pavard again for his second header.
It's just
2 goals in 8 minutes from a center back.
It completely flips the tactical script.
But hold on, I have to push back here.
Yeah.
Because you have a Scottish side playing a back 5.
Right.
They have 3 central defenders packed into the penalty area. Their entire game plan is built on spatial dominance in the box.
Yes, exactly.
How on earth does a 6'1" French center back just ghost into the 6-yard box? Not once, but twice in 8 minutes without someone in a dark blue shirt sounding the alarm.
It sounds crazy, I know.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a French masterclass. It sounds like a catastrophic breakdown in Scottish communication.
Well, it looks like a breakdown on the surface, but you really have to understand the cognitive load on a defense when they're facing France.
Okay, unpack that for me.
So, defensive structures, especially a low block zonal system like Scotland was using, they're basically built on algorithms.
Right.
The defenders are constantly scanning and processing threats. You're calculating Mbappe's position on the wing. You're tracking Kolo Muani's near post run. You're acutely aware of Griezmann just lingering at the edge of the box.
So they've got a lot on their plate.
Exactly. The Scottish defenders' brains are basically redlining, just tracking those designated attackers.
So their internal radar is completely full.
Precisely. And then, and this is the genius of it, you introduce Benjamin Pavard, center back.
Right, who isn't supposed to be there?
In a traditional tactical setup, the opposing center back is not a primary threat entering your penalty area in open play. Pavard becomes this anomaly that the system just isn't programmed to compute in real time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so on that first goal from the corner, Kolo Muani makes a really hard near post run that drags the zonal markers with him, which essentially creates a vacuum behind him. And Pavard just attacks that blind spot.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about the second goal? Because that was open play.
The second goal is even more indicative of this cognitive overload. Mbappe pulls Hendry out wide.
Right.
The moment your center back gets pulled to the touchline, the entire defensive line has to shift over to compensate.
To cover the gap.
Exactly. And in that moment of transition, communication is incredibly difficult. Pavard makes a late, really aggressive run from deep.
Just crash in the box.
Yeah. And because he originates from outside the defensive third, no midfielder hands him off, and the center backs are already fully occupied, he effectively breaks the mathematical rules of Scotland's defense, because nobody's assigned to track the ghosts in the machine.
That is utterly demoralizing. I mean, you spend weeks drilling this airtight defensive shape. You execute it perfectly for 11 minutes, and then the opposition just decides to overload the box with a variable you couldn't possibly account for.
And suddenly it's 2-1 France.
Yeah, and Pavard even nearly gets a hat trick moments later. It's wild. And Dembélé is drifting shots just wide after Tchouaméni starts dropping these beautiful balls over the top. The dam hasn't just broken, it is completely evaporated.
The psychological weight of that shift really cannot be overstated. Scotland built a fortress, and France just calmly walked around the back and dismantled the foundations.
Which brings us to the most brutal part of the first half. Because once the unlikely hero, Pavard, shatters the structural integrity of the Scottish defense, the established superstar steps up to officially end the contest. We have to talk about Kylian Mbappé.
The ultimate expression of offensive gravity.
Right. So right before halftime, Liam Cooper gets caught pulling Olivier Giroud's shirt in the box.
Yeah, clear foul.
The referee points to the spot, VAR confirms it. And now, Liam Kelly, the Scottish goalkeeper, has to stand on his line and look at Kylian Mbappé.
Intimidating to say the least.
A player who walked onto the pitch with 11 goals in his last 12 appearances. Mbappé steps up, zero hesitation, pure power, flashes the smile. 3-1.
Inevitable.
But I want to go back to that phrase you just used, offensive gravity, because on the surface, a penalty is just an individual mistake by Cooper. It's a shirt pull.
Right.
Why are we crediting Mbappe's aura for a defender making a clumsy foul?
Well, because that foul doesn't happen in a vacuum. Gravity isn't just about the moments Mbappe actually touches the ball. It's about the continuous, exhausting pressure his mere presence exerts on a defensive line over 40 minutes.
Just knowing he's there?
Exactly. When you know a forward has the pace to burn you, if you step half a yard too high, you subconsciously drop deeper.
Makes sense.
And when you drop deeper, you invite the French midfield to step higher. The entire pitch tilts.
So the defense is constantly stretched, both physically and mentally.
Exactly. By the time Cooper makes that grab on Giroud, he is physically fatigued from the constant shifting and mentally exhausted from processing the overlapping threats of Mbappe, Dembélé, and all those overlapping runs.
So the mistake was bound to happen.
Shirt pull in the box is rarely just a sudden lapse in judgment, you know. It is usually a symptom of a defender who is half a step slow because the offensive gravity of the opposition has dragged them out of their optimal position.
Wow.
The penalty was just the mathematical inevitability of a defense that had been stretched beyond its breaking point.
That is a staggering thing to realize if you were sitting in the Scottish dressing room at halftime. I mean, you executed your game plan, you got the early goal, you did everything right on paper.
And you still walk into the tunnel down 3-1.
Right, because the sheer mass of the French attack